Hi, bitch besties. It's your main bitch, Melly. Thank you so much for tuning in, and welcome to another episode of the Judgy Bitch Pod.
Hi, bitch besties. Welcome to a new episode of the Judgy Bitch Pod. I'm excited to have you all here, and I'm super excited for you all to meet Pastor Brendan. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to have you on. I cannot wait to learn about you.
Good. I'm excited to engage as well.
Yeah. Give my bitch besties, as a little icebreaker, maybe, give them a little background information. How did you and I meet? How did this come about?
So you had put a post in a Facebook group saying, "Hey, I'm kind of frustrated. Guests aren't on time or showing up, and
Yeah.
you were looking for a guest." And I said, "Hey, like I enjoy being on podcasts. I'm a pastor, I'm an author, and enjoy sharing. So it was nice to connect."
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I put out this post because I really was a little frustrated. And so many people reached out to me. And all of a sudden this week, I was so fully booked with podcasts because so many people reached out and offered to be a guest. I love it. I love turning something negative into something positive. So that was a great experience for me. So thank you so much for reaching out.
No problem. I've been in your shoes as a pastor. It happens where you ask for help and then people don't show up to help, and then you're kind of stuck doing it on your own, and that's never
Yeah.
fun. So when I saw that, I was like, "Oh man, like let's connect and let's do this." I like I said, I've been in your shoes, and I wanted to be on the other end and come through for someone.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And just FYI for the bitch besties, if you ever want to be on the podcast, if you have a story to tell, a service to share, or whatever, just want to be a guest and chit chat or talk about reality TV shows or whatever, I don't care. Reach out to me, DM me on TikTok or on Instagram or on Facebook, wherever we might be connected. I would love to have you on. I'm always open for that. So thank you very much. Pastor Brendan, let's get started in the beginning. How did you become a pastor?
Huh. Well, back when I was like 5, I grew up in a very Catholic family. My grandma she was the faith leader in our family, and
Okay.
it's that classic, grandma tell her grandson, "You're going to grow up to be a Catholic priest," and she was close. She was very close. But no, through my life, like when I turned 18, I left the church, left home, and kind of said, "I'm done with this," and met my first wife, got into a fundamentalist church, and that's a whole story. And even then I was running from it. Still had people like say, "Hey, you'd make a good pastor," and I was like, "Nah, that's not for me." And met a really good friend of mine, and he always told me, "You have a pastor's heart, you have a pastor's heart." Well, after being told that so many times, I was like, "Okay, well, maybe that's what I should explore." And that's how I got to here.
Wow. Amazing. How long have you been a pastor?
Uh, since 2019, so 7.5 years.
Oh, amazing. That's awesome. And I know from your email address that you were a Tatted pastor. Talk to me about that. What's the story behind that?
So on my arms, I got an anchor for my grandpa. I have his handwriting. It's Papa. It was from a Christmas card he signed.
Oh,
So that's on my arm. I have Romans 8. I have on my other arm for my grandma a cardinal, and then her handwriting. I have a picture of my wiener dog that I used to have, Scooter. I got the Grinch on the back of my neck. I got the Babadook and Freddy Krueger. And yeah, I have all kinds of ink.
I love that. That's amazing. I bet people would not assume that when they first meet you and see the tats that you're a pastor.
Oh yeah. And I have the nose ring and earrings and the industrial, and yeah, I have a couple of shirts that says, "Yes, I'm a pastor. Why are you so surprised?" Uh but see, that's what I like though, is there's for years, and it's something that why I created Radiant Refuge Ministries with my wife. It's this all online community, because having tattoos and piercings, or if you color your hair, like if you are anything out of their little norm and you walk into that church, like all the eyes on you make you super uncomfortable. And that's why I
Mm.
did all online only. Then that way there is no door to walk through. It's, you're
Yeah.
choosing to engage, you're choosing to be a part of it. So there's a comfort level there. So Yeah,
Yeah,
fun how that all works out.
I love it. What's the community called again?
Radiant Refuge Ministries.
I love it. And you are on Facebook, Instagram, and all the social media, or is it a website?
It is Facebook, YouTube, and now TikTok.
Yay. I'm new to TikTok too. So listen, I hear you. What do people usually assume when they hear you're a pastor?
Well, the big one is their language changes because it'll be funny, I'll go in for a bar, get a drink or anywhere I go and
Yeah.
I'm in conversation, people are dropping the cuss words left and right, and uh, as it comes up, yeah, I'm a pastor, and then all of a sudden they stop and it's like, look, I'm a pastor and I love Jesus, but I cuss a little, like.
I love it. Well, you're on the Judgy Bitch podcast. Of course, I'm cussing. So
Yeah, it
that's
doesn't,
funny.
yeah, it doesn't bother me either, and that's like people, in the Christian traditions, oh well, you can't have that kind of language. Of course you can. There are cuss words in the Bible. Paul wrote one of them, and it's my first book is Holy Freaking Scubala, and everybody goes, well, what's that mean? Well, it's Greek, and if you read the first couple of pages, it explains it's a Greek word that wouldn't have been used in polite company. And it's a word that Paul used, comparing his life to Christ. And in the English, it's dirt and refuse and dung and everything, but what it really is shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is. And that's why I do this. That's why I love kind of being on the fringe, because I don't have anybody telling me like what I can and can't say. Like I know what's
Yeah.
there. I've done the studies, so might as well
Yeah.
share the truth.
I love that. I'm not very religious. I wasn't raised religiously. I'm from Germany, East Side Germany, I should also say, where church was somewhat frowned upon, you know. And I hear, especially living here in America, where so many people are very religious and the different religions too, that it's very frowned upon to cuss using Jesus Christ's name.
Yeah, so you don't get tagged the GD. To me, that's not a cuss word or a cuss phrase. That's a prayer. You're literally asking God to condemn something. So it's a prayer for me,
Yeah.
And it's funny, I had heard your accent and I went, I know this, and I haven't heard it in a while. So I was born in Ramstein, Germany, to United States Air Force service members. Got to go back when I was a teen. It's how I discovered the band Rammstein. That was 1997 in Frankfurt, Germany. I remember it well. So
Love
big,
it.
big, big fan.
I love that so much. I became an American citizen last year, finally, after I've been living here for over 12 years. And I know this one song by the band Rammstein that is "We Are Living in America." You know that song?
One of my favorites. I love it.
I love that song too. That's the only Rammstein song I have in my playlist.
It's Yeah, I love when things line up and connect like this. It's what makes the world go round. Those little connections where we discover the commonalities between all of us. And I think it's, in this day and age where everybody's kind of at each other's throats, having those little connections and reminders of them, I think it helps
Yeah.
bring a little peace and unity to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Somebody just reminded me of, I just literally this week adopted my foster dog. And there was a funny coincidence. And somebody said to me, no, it's not a coincidence. There is no such thing as coincidence. And I was like, I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. I do believe in the greater power out there. And I don't know whether it's a God or the universe or whatever it might be, right? So I do believe that. But I needed that reminder that everything happens for a reason. And sometimes in little connections like this, we get a little taste of it, I feel like.
Exactly. Exactly. And, you know, from a, your spiritual perspective, whether it is the universe or, from my perspective is a Christian, I see that as no, God put that all together, and
Mhm.
that's the thing, whether you're into the more spiritual side, if you're in the religion side, and honestly any of the religions, whether it's Buddhist or Hindu, I think all of it is our way of interacting with something that is greater than ourselves, you know
Yeah.
and if you look at the core tenets of all of the major religions and all of the belief systems out there, don't be a jerk is like the top of the line,
No, for
and
real.
it's like maybe we can all agree, okay, you know what, no matter what we believe, let's just not be jerks to each other. And maybe, just maybe, we could have a little bit of better than what we have now.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to go a little deep and heavy right now, but in my belief, most of the wars we are fighting is either about religion or money. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree. That's spot
And that's
on.
sad. That's very
It is.
sad. Very sad. But let's turn this back onto you. I don't know how
Yeah,
we went in that rabbit hole.
it happens.
When you and I first met, when you first reached out to me, you said, don't be put off by the pastor label. What did you mean by that?
So in in 2026, when someone says that they are a pastor or they are a Christian, there is this automatic assumption, one, that we're preachy, and I really try not to be. And two, when you say Christian, a lot of folks think the fundamentalist, like alt right, the very judgy, mean spirited, rules based Christians. And I don't want to be associated with that because that's for me, that's just not what Jesus taught. And that's what I'm trying to follow.
Yeah, I love that. What's one thing that usually surprises people about you when they meet you?
Most people don't think that I can cook. That's one thing that they just don't see coming. I'm a barbecue guy. I've got some kitchen skills. So I throw people off with that. I
Are
think
you a
that's the
foodie?
big one.
Are
Oh
you a
yeah, I'm a
foodie?
hardcore. I have bought more stuff off the TikTok shop to do trendy foods than I want to talk about.
I love that. And you mentioned earlier you grew up in a very religious household.
Mhm.
What was that like? Were you religious as a kid? Did you have to go to Bible school and all that? Or how did you find to your faith?
So, growing up in a very strict Catholic household, it was going to church every Sunday. It was going to Catholic school, which from the very get go I didn't like. Kindergarten, I used to be left handed, but I had a nun that, left handed is evil and used a ruler, smacked my hands. And now,
Oh my God, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, hey, it's part of life. Like,
Mm.
that's it's not a detriment to me. I'm now ambidextrous. I can use both hands for just about
That's cool.
everything. You got to learn. But even that, like, that started kind of like, I don't know about this. They say God loves us, but then they treat us like this. And just as I got older, it got progressively worse, especially through the purity culture. You know, sex is terrible unless you're married. And then, about that time is when I figured out that, like, my mom and dad weren't married, when I was conceived, because you know, I know when their anniversary is and I know when my birthday is. And I go, wait a minute,
Yeah.
there's only like 4 months there. Once I got to that age where I could figure it out. So yeah, there was a lot of confusion and hypocrisy that I picked up on. And as I asked questions and pointed it out, it was more, getting beat and all that, very physical, punishment, because spare the rod, spoil the child kind of deal. And that's
Yeah.
why I left home at 18, went out on my own, lived in my car on my own for 6 months. Yeah, it was not great. And that's, why I
Mhm.
left the church and left it behind.
Yeah.
And just through meeting other people and getting back into it, that's, what brought me back to my faith.
I love that. When you say you figured out your parents weren't married when you were conceived, I have the funniest story to tell you. My sister and I, she's 2 years older than me. We were playing when we were little. I forgot which age we were. My mom was working at a bank. And, back in the day, you still had to fill out those forms at the bank when you needed money and withdraw money and all that. So she brought us a bunch of those forms home so we can play with them. And we were playing bank and we stumbled across, the book of the family, and we stumbled across the marriage certificate and our birth certificates. And my sister was born 3 months after they were married. But I guess we weren't as smart as connecting the dots that they could have conceived her before they were married. We were convinced that my dad is not her dad because they weren't married at that time. So, yeah. And I think it took us a couple hours and we were like, no, and you're not my sister. And, that's not your dad. And we were like devastated until we finally told my mom about our findings and she sat us down and explained everything.
That's man. It's amazing. We're both adults, and when you think about like kids today, just going through that, it's almost like a rite of passage. There's always
Yeah.
something about your parents you're gonna find out.
Yeah. But the pureness of children is just so cute sometimes.
It is. It is.
Was there a moment when you felt compelled to be a pastor?
Yeah, I had a friend named Jerry, a really good friend of mine, big part of my faith. He actually passed away right as I was entering ministry. But he
Oh,
was
I'm
a
sorry.
he was a big part of encouraging me and telling me, "Hey, you have a pastor's heart, like, you are cut out for this," and it's why I started
Um,
getting my bachelor's degree in biblical studies and then, working in the United Methodist Church through their process to become a pastor, and, yeah, right as I was doing my take-in, which is the process where, you're introduced to the leadership of the churches you're going to serve, and, I was meeting with our district superintendent and having breakfast, and I got the notification, and yeah, still did it, and like went through with it, and ended up starting that July, and it was yeah, but it was stepping into that pulpit the first time. Like I was like, okay, this feels comfortable, this feels right, this is what I'm supposed to do.
It's amazing. And you just touched on it. What is the process to be a pastor? If somebody listens to this episode now and also feels called to be a pastor, what do they do? Where do they start?
Well, if they feel that calling, the first, step is talk to your pastor, because depending on your denomination, the Catholic Church has a process, the United Methodists have a process, like every major denomination, it seems to differ a little bit, but they'll
Yeah.
let you know. For a lot of folks, you don't have to have a college degree. They do have like a course of study that, you can complete, and it's, like getting a college degree, but it isn't accredited, and, you can be ordained.
Interesting. Hmm. And you said you struggled a little bit in earlier years with your faith. What was it that made you struggle a little bit?
It was the hypocrisy, the God loves you except for these specific things. You know, I'm man, that's good. Yeah, it's the hypocrisy. It's really the hypocrisy of, saying God loves you and then, oh, well, you did this wrong and God doesn't love you anymore. Like that
Yeah.
was, yeah, that was hard.
How did you overcome that?
A lot of therapy. That's the best way to answer it, is a lot of therapy.
I'm a huge fan of therapy. I feel like everybody should have at least one therapist and go through it at least once in their lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah, especially after a loss. Any
Yeah.
kind of death in even if it's a pet, that's been in the family, like, see a grief therapist, like,
Yeah.
they're there for a reason, and it helps heal.
Yeah. Yeah. How much of a therapist do you have to be sometimes as a pastor?
So, a lot of folks do come for that kind of thing, and I limit how far I go because I am not a trained, licensed, or educated as a therapist.
Right.
So I keep it strictly to the answers I can give as far as religion and faith and belief. But when it comes
Yeah.
to actual therapy, I leave
Yeah.
that to the professionals.
Yeah. That makes total sense. And speaking of Christianity, do you think there's something misunderstood about Christianity?
Yeah, for sure. And it starts with, our own churches that are embraced into this very fundamentalist Christian nationalist kind of way.
Mm.
That that's the only way I can really think to word that. But they preach this Jesus. You see people, um, the televangelists like Joel Osteen and whatnot that have millions upon millions of dollars and jets and mansions and all this. I'm going, guys, what are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
Jesus literally said not to do this. It's
Right.
in there. Like, why? And
Yeah.
I think that's the hard part is all the history, all the follies of man that have taken, what was supposed to be a belief system and tried to wield some kind of power with it to assert dominance over others. Like, that's just not what it was supposed to be. And
Mm.
yeah, that's why I try to, you know, I'm not like super famous on Facebook. Like Radiant Refuge has 155 followers, you know.
That's amazing.
Our YouTube's got like 30. It's and I'm okay
That's
with that.
something.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's the people that are meant to be in the circle. They're meant to be in this community. And I think we need more of what I'm doing, just small community oriented action driven kind of churches. And
Yeah.
I think that would be better served to our communities.
Yeah. I hear that from so many people that they would like to be religious, but they don't like the organized religion. What do you tell those people?
Uh, it's very much what Gandhi said. I very
Mhm.
much like your Christ. I don't much like your Christians. And I get that. I get that. And I think that's, for the folks out there that like the organized religion, I mean, if you want to believe and talk about your faith, it's always handy to have a small group of people to chat with.
Yeah.
Put together a Discord server, whatever it is, have that little. It doesn't have to be more than 3, 4 people. Like that's all
Right.
you need, and that's
Yeah.
what you do is walk through life with each other.
Yeah. Do people sometimes argue with you about your faith? And has someone ever shaken your belief a little bit?
A lot of people, because I'm a very big ally of the LGBTQIA plus community.
I love that, by the way. Thank you so much for being an ally. Love it.
Well, I'm not just an ally, I'm a member of the club. I'm bi. So
Eve, I saw this coming. I knew. I saw this coming. I love it. No, I absolutely love it. I can just applaud you.
thank you.
Love it.
And and that's the thing. Like because I'm part of the queer community and because I very much champion it, there's folks out there that no, that's wrong. It's a sin and all that that horrible stuff that we see. And it's like, no, here, it's on our Facebook page about the clobber verses. I've written on, in my books, I've written in the Substack, all the things like I've written it, very, very well put out. Like, no, this is what these verses mean. And we need to stop beating each other with them. And that's my whole
Yeah,
thing is like, the Bible is an instruction book to show us how to love people well. It is not supposed to be picked up to be used as a cudgel and kill people with it,
100%. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know much about the Bible, but the Bible pretty much tells you to love everybody, right? So why would you select?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the part that I rail against because it's just not like it's not loving, it's not kind, it's not anything that the book actually says. I don't know how they've gotten it so far off, but it's
Yeah.
pretty rough.
Do you think that patriarchy weaponizes the Bible?
Oh, oh my goodness, yes. If you look at what the Southern Baptist Convention just did this week, they actually made it a code, bylaws, something like that, in their rules that women cannot be pastors. I don't understand why. You know,
Yeah.
if you read the Bible, like Mary Magdalene was the very first person to preach the risen Christ. We should be letting women preach. And I have, women that are pastor friends. They make me look tame. They are so fierce and so focused on the social justice aspect of the gospel and like caring for other people. Like, we need more women leaders in the church.
Yeah. Well, it's all part of the, sorry to say, war on women.
Yeah. Yeah. And it, there's so much. I mean, we can really go deep on that, but
I was just
it's
going to say, we can have another episode on that topic.
yeah, it's just, you look at Project 2025, and which is, built from the Heritage Foundation, which is faith-based, and you look at, where all of these horrible things are coming from, and it's coming from religious organizations that I don't know how or why or what they're using to read the Bible, but it can't be the same one that I'm reading.
Yeah. Do you think they're abusing their power?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I would agree with you. All right. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole either. Let's bring it back to you. You also mentioned to me in the bio you sent me, and I appreciate that. Thank you. That you love science. How do you do that? How does your faith and science coexist?
This is gonna be fun. I have been fascinated with science ever since I was a little kid, like watching Mr. Wizard on TV, and I know I'm dating myself there. Even my grandma, like she had a little weather station with the thermometer, barometer, and what else was there? The humidity. And
Mm,
every day at like 6 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m., which was breakfast, lunch, and dinner, when she sat down, she would write the time. She would write the temperature and all that. She had a little log of all the different birds that she had, would see out at her feeder. And like, she would explain, like, you can gauge what the weather's going to be. And that's how I got interested in watching the weather and the clouds and learning how all of that works. And I realized as I, went through school and, had all the science classes of biology and chemistry and physics, like for me, I went, this all makes sense. The more I learn, the more I am learning how God put everything together in the universe. You know, presented with the Big Bang Theory, and people were all upset about it. And I went, wait a minute, no, like that makes sense. If God spoke, he's an all powerful, all knowing being. If he spoke, then that would be the Big Bang. Like, I can see that.
hmm
When was that? It was like 2015. This study came out where they looked at the universe, and it's growing in one direction, and it looks like a speech pattern. And I went, holy cow, science proved part of this right. And like all of it, just it fascinates me. The Artemis launch that just happened, I was glued to the TV. It was
Oh
fascinating.
my God. I
Like,
love that.
right? It's so cool to see what we can do with science and technology. How could you not like enjoy it?
And that time gave me so much hope. When we come together and do something good, look what we can achieve.
Exactly. Exactly. Or even, we have the Voyager satellites that are heading out into space. They're still sending back images. Like, they shouldn't be. Those batteries should be long dead, but they're still going. And
Yeah.
we're still getting information. The Hubble is giving us all kinds of pictures still, and the James E. Webb telescope, and the Mars rover, all these things, and we're learning and learning and learning. And
Yeah.
I love learning about space because I realize I'm but a speck of dust sitting on this little blue marble.
No, if even, right? Like, I would like to know how big space is and what's behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would say that science and faith are not in conflict with each other?
No. No, if you use a little bit of creative thinking, like, you take what's in the Bible, and you
Yeah.
realize that it was written thousands of years ago to in God gave it to Moses, and he couldn't really explain the finer points of quantum mechanics, or Moses's head would have popped. You know, well, think about it. You ask somebody like Moses, like, "Hey, here's my phone. Can you Google this?" And Moses is going to go, "What is this?" And what? Like they wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, that God gave Moses this language that Moses could understand, it's poetry, it's an allegory, and if we look beyond what these little words say and think about the universe is growing in one direction from where we've identified the Big Bang. So that's how he did it. God spoke, and we've figured out how it happened. Like that should be celebrated, not like in conflict with each other.
Right. So you also believe in evolution?
To some extent, yeah. I wouldn't I don't think the humans came from like primates, but I believe that there has been like an evolution of how humans have, I don't think I think if Moses was set next to like you and I, but Moses is not going to have the same human features that we think is human now. That's going
Yeah.
to be, an earlier iteration of man.
Yeah. And I think we're still evolving, right? Like just
Yeah.
look at the age that we're achieving. So that's a kind of evolution over the years as well, right?
Yeah. And
Of course, that's contributed by science, by medication and all that. That's why we become older nowadays than back in the day. But it's still part of an evolution.
it is. It is. And we're evolving in, how our bodies adjust to the climate. And we're evolving in, how our bodies function, if we're more sedentary than active. And, we have all these new discoveries, and the human body, we've been studying it for how long, and we only know this tiny little fraction
Yeah.
of all the goings on, and I keep thinking, man, as we get older and we keep evolving, what are we going to find? Like, what am I going to miss out on that is discovered about the human body?
Yeah, absolutely. If you could ask one question about the universe that we don't know as of now, what question would you ask?
Well, my little mind says, are there really little green men out there? Is there other life forms outside of Earth? You know,
I would like to
I
know that too.
yeah, I would love to know. I mean, we see, evidence of planets that could host life, and we know that it's a possibility, but like, how do we get there? How do we find
Yeah.
out for sure? You know?
Yeah. No, I would like to know that too. Or has there ever been life somewhere else? It might be distinct already. Who knows? Or is it in the early stages and will be there in 1,000 years or whatever? Like,
Yeah, yeah, and those are all plausible things that can or already have happened.
yeah, I could have asked 101 questions. It just blows my mind. So would you say you're a science geek or what is it that has you talking or could have you talking for hours?
Uh, Again, for me, it's space. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love learning from that man. I have watched a bunch of his lectures. I catch him on TV appearances and stuff. That man is like he's the Stephen Hawking. He picked up where Stephen Hawking left off and continued being that like world's smartest man kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's funny, which helps the digestion of information, if you will.
Yeah.
But he is so stinking smart, and that's one. Oh man, that's one person I admire the daylights out of, and that's what keeps me interested in learning about space. It's how I keep learning about space is, you know, keeping up on those conversations. And there's a couple of different content creators on YouTube that will take the images that have come back and kind of do updates, and that's like I'll just sit there and click through them because I can't stop.
Yeah. No, I totally hear you. We all, we're all there, especially with
Yeah.
TikTok. I don't know, there's something addictive about those creators. And once you go down the rabbit hole, the algorithm, of course, will feed you more and more and more, right? And then you really can't stop.
But and that's how I got into like the educational side of the YouTube shorts because that's my wife and I. That's what we use is YouTube is our primary like streaming, and we'll sit and flip through shorts, because it's fun. It's
Yeah.
it's like scrolling TikTok together. It's on the
Yeah.
TV. It's handy, and I've curated it to where I get a lot of the space stuff, and we have some comedy in there, but a lot of educational stuff. And one that just came up, I don't know if you've seen it, it's the Bone Museum out of New York City.
Okay. No, I haven't seen that.
It their content is fascinating. It's all about the
Okay.
human skeleton, and they have all kinds of weird, creepy, like kind of painful looking, bones and skulls and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love it. Every time it comes on, I'm like glued. It's just information that I'm learning, and it's fantastic.
Do you remember back in the day, they had this museum of the guy who used actual real people to exhibit the human body? And you remember what I'm talking about?
I do,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
I can't remember the name.
me neither, but that just popped into my mind when you said Bone Museum. That's the guy I'm thinking about. But you also just mentioned your wife. How long have you guys been married?
Uh, that was March 1st, 2024. I had to think
So,
back a little bit. So it's like a little over 2 years.
oh, over 2 years. So you got
Yeah.
married when you were already a pastor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm on my second marriage.
good for you. I love that. I'm also divorced. I'm all for divorce. If it doesn't fit, why would you stick together and be unhappy?
It, exactly. You would think that. But
Right.
when you grow up in the Christian sect of the world, the
Yeah.
divorce is terrible.
Yeah. How do you approach that topic as a pastor?
It I mean it depends on the situation.
Mm,
Each situation is very, very different. Because if there's physical violence involved, like no, you got to get out of there, and you
yeah.
got to help in any way you can. But
Yeah.
if it's, hey, like we've kind of been fighting a lot lately, and okay, have you guys sought out a couples therapist? Like,
Right.
this is a couple of apps that I know of off the top of my head that can help with communication. Like, let's get you
Yeah.
down that healthy road. And is it, oh God, don't get divorced. No, like, okay, you got a little strife. Like, let's try and work past this and keep you together,
Yeah.
if we can. But if it's real, if it's a bad match and it's not working out, then of course don't stay and suffer. So
Right.
it's hard to give a definitive answer because of how complex that is.
It's really case by case. I hear you. And you also said you are bisexual. When did you realize that? How was that process for you?
So I realized that back in the 90s watching The Mummy with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. And
Okay.
like I saw Rachel Weisz and I went, "My, she's beautiful." I saw
Yeah,
Brendan Fraser and I went, "Oh, wait, that's a handsome young man." And then
I agree.
what's his name? Odeth Fair, who played the leader of the Magi.
Yeah, don't
With the
ask me for
long.
names. I'm the wrong person to talk names.
It's okay. He had the like real nice curly long
I
hair.
know who you
Like,
mean, though.
yeah,
Yeah.
that man is a beautiful man,
Yes.
and that's kind of where I knew, but growing up in a very, very Christian conservative home, any kind of mention of that was met with slurs and like being told that gay people are terrible, and
Mm,
so I repressed it for a long time.
mhm.
I didn't actually openly come out until I was 40.
Okay. Yeah. Would you say that was the hardest thing you went through in life, coming out to your family?
If my parents know, I'd be surprised because I haven't talked to them in a long
Okay.
time. Yeah, my 2 younger sisters, I don't think know. Unless they've picked up my books, I don't think they know. So, yeah, it wasn't really family, it was, like, my ex-wife and my nephew, and that was really all that knew. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I had written it about a year after I had written an article that had gotten published, and I had written it anonymously, but apparently too many people know my writing style, so yeah, that's how I ended up getting kicked out of the United Methodist Church because of
Oh,
that said article.
so you're a writer too. How many articles have you published?
Um, there are 4 that I know of, like, outside of letters to the editor, like, there's a lot. And like I said, most of my writing is on Substack now. Yeah, it's really all on Substack except for my books.
Talk to me about your books. How many books have you published?
Uh, I have 2 that are currently available, 1 that will be available July 5th, and then a 4th in the works for Christmas this year.
What are the titles? What are they about?
So the first one is Holy Freaking Scubala, Faith in the Fiery Wreckage. That was my first one, and it started because Elon Musk did something stupid. Pick a day, and whatever he
Right.
did.
I was just gonna say, like, on a daily.
Well, I can't. I honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I remember that it was something to do with money and his ridiculous wealth, and I went, what would happen if Jesus would have like a sit down conversation with Elon? And I was like, oh wait, the parable of the rich young ruler, where Jesus told this rich guy to sell it all and give it to the poor, and he went away like really upset, and I was like, oh man, this would be a great story. So like I sat down and wrote like a fanfic parable of this and made it Jesus and Elon. And
I love
I
that.
posted, yeah, I posted on Facebook and people were like, oh man, this is fantastic. Like,
You should repost it because he just became the first trillionaire with his SpaceX stock.
oh, I missed that. Did that happen today?
Just today, I think. Yeah. So repost
Sh-
your
Yeah.
book. Everyone, I'm sure people would fly off the handle right now.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so that post, that's what started the idea to write a book. And so I have my modern like imagination of what Jesus would tell that story like today,
I
then
love
the
that.
scripture, and then like an interaction that I've been through. And so it's almost like a little devotional. The
Yeah.
second
And
one,
the second book?
Sermons from a Heretic. A
Okay.
word that's a word I get called a lot. So
Oh, how so?
because I support the queer community and the work that I do with the queer
Mm.
community, oh, it's heresy, you're a heretic. And okay, I'm glad you think so. Like, I, I'm just trying to follow Jesus.
And those
So
are
I took,
people of faith who call you that?
oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Huh. There you go.
But yeah,
Mm.
that book is sermons that I have preached. And in the United Methodist Church, if you're not familiar with it, as a local, in the middle of nowhere pastor, you get 3 churches that you're in charge of.
Okay.
So you preach at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and 11 a.m., and you have about 10 minutes. And that's just not enough for a sermon. Like,
No.
I had so much information that I researched and prepared that I can't fit in here. So I put it in a book because people can pause whenever they want. Like, I can make them as long as I want.
Yeah. I
So
love
I
that.
did. So I did.
Yeah.
And I put all of, like, at the end of every chapter, I have all of my, like, APA style citations and everything so people know where I got my information.
Yeah. I love that. And the third book?
So that is coming out July 5th. It's called The Sacred and the Shattered. That is a memoir that I wrote covering a lot of what I went through as a kid coming up in, alt-right fundamentalist Christian nationalist home, and, the abuse and stuff that I endured.
I'm so
So
sorry.
that's no, it's okay. I'm glad that I have this story. I learned a lot along the way.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine. Where are your books available?
Uh, I have them all on Amazon, or for anybody that's local to Newcastle, PA. I'm always in the community. You can always get one.
Love it. Love it. Do pastors feel pressure to be perfect?
I did for a long time. I found out that was my first year that I was in the United Methodist Church. That September 18th is International Buy a Priest a Beard Day, and
I love that.
it's my
Which day is it?
favorite holiday. September 18th.
Okay. Noted.
So that's I'd go out to a bar, and I'd sit at the bar, talk with people, have a drink, maybe two, and I'd get like, you can't be in the bar. That's terrible. Well, what do you mean? Why can't I go into the bar? Why can't there's nothing wrong with this? Like,
Yeah.
but there's that hardline Christian edge that the pastor can't be seen doing those things.
Yeah. I'm sure you get a lot of criticism for that. How do you handle that? Do you have a tip for the bitch besties how to handle criticism?
You gotta assess where the criticism is coming from.
Yeah.
There are times where the criticism comes just the way you need it to. It's constructive, it's done with
Mhm.
care. Always, always, always accept those criticisms. There are times where people come and they have a point, but they're
Mhm.
super, super angry and they say some mean things along the way.
Yeah.
Ignore ignore the mean things,
Yeah.
take to heart the actual root of the criticism.
Yeah.
Then there's people that just whine and bitch just to whine and bitch. And
Mm.
you hand them a slice of cheese to go with their wine.
I love that. That should be printed on a t-shirt.
Might have to trademark that one.
Yeah. That's very true though.
Yeah, and do I get it right all the time? No. No,
No, we all
I
just don't.
don't.
Yeah.
But that's what I try to do is assess where the
Good.
criticism comes from. And then
That's right. Pixie wanted to say something too. I once heard somebody say, why do you believe criticism from somebody you wouldn't take advice from? And that stuck with me.
that is very, very true. That is very
Yeah.
true.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I ever received came from my buddy Jerry. And his advice was that if you look at the world full of wonder and full of awe, just like a little kid, you'll never, ever, ever fail to see the miracles.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Would you say a miracle or a wonder is something that you can't explain with faith?
Run that by me one more time.
Would you say that a miracle or a wonder is something that you can't explain with faith?
I mean, you can explain them with miracle for sure. It's something you know we believe. Praying for healing. When it happens, we give God the credit as Christians. The the wonders. I definitely credit God with that. Like you look at some of the mesas out in the Midwest, or look at some of how the mountain formations are, and the
Yeah.
absolute majesty of it.
Yeah.
When when you put God made that, like, or, millions of gallons of water running over rock for billions of years. However you want to see it, it's
Yeah.
still incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going a little bit through a tough time right now as a country, I would say. Not everybody might agree with me, but it's my belief. What what is something that gives you hope right now?
What gives me hope is seeing here in our local community the amount of people that are stepping up to make sure that no one goes hungry.
I love
For
that.
Yeah, because for me, I you know I look at Matthew 25 where Jesus talks about how we get judged in the end. He goes, "Did you feed the hungry? Did you give drink to the thirsty, clothe the naked, like visit the sick and in prison?" Those things are what we're judged on. And to see so many people that are out and making sure that people aren't going hungry, and Radiant Refuge is a part of it. Like that's that's the advice I'd give is work on feeding your community.
Yeah. What is something you would tell your younger self?
I would definitely tell my younger self, don't believe the hate. Don't get sucked into it because it's not worth it.
That's great advice. Absolutely. What's something you're currently obsessed with?
So there is a show on MGM Plus called From. The lead actor happens to be a character from Lost, and
Hmm.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's a person of color, a fantastic actor. I've just been loving him, just watching him and getting in his head of how he's playing this character is fantastic. And the storyline, like every episode, the storyline takes this sharp left turn that you didn't expect, but not in like a bad way. It's in this fantastic, like keep you on the edge of your seat kind of show. And yeah, season 4 just dropped, and my wife and I went back to season 1 because we had forgot. We haven't seen it in a while. We forgot, so we're
Yeah.
rewatching it, and that's been a really really good obsession to kind of focus in on.
Sounds interesting. And this question is a little like, well, but I still have to ask it. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh, I want to have dinner with Grammy again.
That's sweet. Do you miss her?
Yeah, a lot. I have questions. I have
Like what?
so many questions. Why? Where did she get her belief from?
Mm,
Why? Why was there so much harshness and meanness?
mm,
And did she I wanna know more about when she said I was gonna grow up to be a Catholic priest, like, did she really know, or was that just like that thing that Catholic grandmas say to their grandkids, you know? Like, I really wanna know.
mm. I mentioned to you that I'm very spiritual and I always believe in signs from the people that passed away. Do you believe in that too?
For sure.
Do you have a sign maybe for your Grammy? Like, how people sometimes find feathers or see butterflies or whatever. Is there anything that you have realized?
Cardinals.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's why you have the tattoo.
Yeah, it was Grammy's favorite bird. When Christine and I, like, one of the first times I took her fishing, we had gone out and there was this cardinal that would just like not leave our car alone. And I was like, okay, like I get it. And here at the house, we haven't really seen cardinals until this year. We have 2 of them. And
Oh,
it's nice to have it's nice to have them back.
yeah. Do you believe that your grandma, for example, is your guardian angel a little bit?
I do. I do. And I mean, that woman prayed for me morning, noon, and night. And I don't mean that like in an exaggeration. I literally mean she prayed morning, noon, and night for all of
Yeah.
her grandkids.
Yeah.
And I really do think that her prayers for me kept me out of a lot of bad situations in my life.
I love that. That's very sweet. Pastor Brendan, at the end of each episode, I always like to play games. I always have ChatGPT, whom I call David, to create some fun games for us. Before we get into that fun part, is there something to wrap up this section of the episode, that you want the bitch besties to know about you or to take away from this conversation? Is there anything you'd like to share that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, to the bitch besties, I know that you don't know me that well, and I can't possibly know who you are. But there are people in this world that hate for no reason, and that bothers me. I think we need to turn it around. So I want
Yeah.
you to hear this as plain as day with every ounce of everything that I have. I love you. You are worthy of being loved. No matter what anyone else has said, no matter what anyone else has done, you are deserving of love and dignity and care. Don't ever forget that.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Thank you.
You're
What a great
welcome.
message. I agree with that. Are you ready to play some games?
I love playing a good game.
Okay. And there's no wrong answer, so don't start sweating. So David created the first game called Judgy or Jesus. Perfect title. I love it. So I'm going to read you a situation and you have to answer Judgy or Jesus. Okay?
This is good.
Yeah. First one is someone cuts you off in traffic.
That's judgy.
Your ex suddenly watches all your Instagram stories.
I'm calling on Jesus for that one.
Okay. Someone says tattoos aren't appropriate for church.
That's judgy for sure.
A person falls asleep during your sermon.
Oh, that's Jesus. That's Jesus for sure. I mean, more specifically, Paul, because he actually preached so long that someone fell asleep and fell out a window. So, yeah, in that vein, Jesus.
Someone loudly talks during a movie.
That's judgy.
Okay. And last one for this game. You find out a friend has been gossiping about you.
Man. See, I got to go with Jesus because that's still scripture.
Okay. The next game I have for us is Would You Rather? So first one is know the meaning of life or know exactly how you'll die.
Know the meaning of life.
That's a big one. Yeah. Travel to the past or the future.
Ooh. Travel to the future.
I'd be interested too. Read minds or speak every language.
Speak every language.
I would too. I don't want to know what the bitches think about me. Lose your phone for a year or lose coffee forever.
That's terrible. I'll go lose my phone for a year. The coffee's too important.
No, honestly, you can have my smartphone back in a heartbeat. I miss the 90s before we had that.
Same.
I mean, we're all just 25, but you know what I mean. Have every question answered or ask one question of God.
Ooh. Ask one question of God. That's a hard decision too.
Live on another planet or under the ocean.
Oh man. I think under the ocean, as
That
long
would
as
be
I have
interesting.
the dome and I can see the fish, I'm okay.
That would be interesting. Yeah. And last one is never age physically or never age mentally.
Never age physically. That I seen too many folks with like the Parkinson's and stuff like that. Yeah, that'd be hard.
Yeah. And we're kind of working on the physical part, right? With all the Botox and all the lasers and so on.
Mine's just the chiropractor for me.
But it works. Why not?
Yeah.
Pastor Brendan, it was such a pleasure to have you on. Please tell my bitch besties once again where they can find your community, where they can find your books, and where they can even follow you on social media.
I am on Facebook. That's pretty much my only social media that I have for personal. For Radiant Refuge Ministries, we are on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok. That's Radiant Refuge Ministries. Just search that and you'll find us. My books, all three of them are on Amazon. I think Barnes and Noble has it as well. You can search my name and I'll come up.
Amazing. I really loved and enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much. Please stay on for one more second. Bitch besties, I thank you so much for listening. If you love this episode, please do me the favor and share it with all of your friends and family. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, Bitch Besties, for listening. Make sure to follow us at the Judgy Bitch Pod. And hey, spread the word. Tell your friends, your ex, your dog walker. We'd love the support. Want to be part of the show? DM us your feedback, hot takes, or unapologetic opinions. We just might read them on air. And don't forget to follow, rate, and review the pod. See you next week. Cheers, bitches.